As you've probably already noticed, the naming conventions that most cameras use isn't always the most descriptive, so Bridge makes it really easy to rename your photos. Now, we saw that you could rename your photos when using the Adobe Downloader utility to get photos from your camera, but if you're not using the utility or if you just want to rename later on in the workflow, all you need to do is either select the single image that you want to rename. So if I wanted to rename this statue, I could do that. And then if I tap the Tab key, I would actually move to the next image. Now, you might not have noticed what just happened, but when I tap the Tab key, it renamed it, and you can see now that statue is actually at the end of the thumbnails here, and that's because I have this sorted by file name. If we change it to something like sort by date created, then the statue will stay first here because it was created first. Again, to click on the second image, I would just click in the name area and then rename it. So in this case, I'll call this close-up. Tapping the Tab key will move you to the next image and automatically highlight the name. But I don't really want to go through all of these images one by one in order to rename them. So instead, I'm going to select the first image and then hold down the Shift key and select the last image in order to select all of the images in this folder. Then, under the Tools menu, I'll select Batch Rename. I have my option to rename in the same folder, which is what we're going to do, but you should notice that I could also move these at the same time that I'm renaming them to another folder, or I could make a copy and move them to another folder. I have a lot of different options for my new file names. You can see that we have 4 options now, but I can always add more by clicking on the plus icon, or I can subtract options by clicking on the minus icon. I'm going to make and use a very simple file naming convention that simply has the option for some text and then puts a sequence number. But you should know that you can go ahead and choose from any of these other options. So I could preserve my original file name and then add a sequence. I could start with a sequence number if I wanted to. I could go ahead and use a letter instead, or any of these other options. But again, I'm going to use just my text option because that's going to allow me to enter in the text. So in this case, I might enter in China. And then on my second option, I want a sequence number, and I can select how many digits I want. So depending on if I have 200 images or 2,000 images, I'm going to need to choose between 3 digits and 4 digits. In this case, I'll be safe with just 2 digits. And I can see a preview of what this is going to look like down here in the preview area. It also has a nice hint here that says that 33 files will be processed, because sometimes I just select the first image and choose Batch Rename, and this warns me that I'd only be renaming that one image and I need to select more. Now, before we rename these, I'll just mention that if you're going to use this naming convention over and over again, you'll want to click on the Save icon and then save this out. So we'll call this JKFNC for File Naming Convention and click OK. You can see now that the preset up here is changed. I can always go back to the default or last used, but I'll choose my preset and then click Rename. We can see how quickly Bridge renames all of those images. And of course, if we make a mistake, all we need to do is return back to Tools to Batch Rename and make the change that we want. You can see why setting this up as a preset with just simple text and then a sequence number can come in quite handy, because each time I bring in a new set of images from a different location, all I would need to do is change this custom text. You can also see that if I had another card full of images that I downloaded and wanted to rename tomorrow, if those had been taken in the same location, you can see that Bridge is remembering the last number of the sequence that I batched rename so that I could start renaming my next folder of images on the correct number. So I don't want to rename these again. I'll just click Cancel. But I think you can see how easy it is to rename all of your images using Bridge.